Welcome back to the Agent Goldmine. You are here today with your hosts, Ali Garcet and myself, Shelby Johnson. We are two EXP Icon agents here to share everything that we know in life and things we uncover along the way. And we're here to help agents take their business from $100,000 to $200,000 in this next year. So today we are on the Ultimate Listing Agent Checklist, Part 6.
Welcome to the Agent Goldmine, the only podcast in the world specifically for real estate agents who are stuck at 5 transactions a year to help them get to 20 plus. Your hosts, Ali Garcet and Shelby Johnson, two EXP Icon agents, each do over 40 transactions a year and interview others who are crushing it. In this podcast, you'll receive the knowledge to help you scale your business using systems and processes with our interviews and monologues twice a week. If you want to be a part of our community, reach out. Welcome to the show.
Today, we are doing contract to close. And for those of you who have been following along parts 1 through 5, if you haven't, you should definitely go back and listen to those so you can get the full scoop. This thing is robust. We're real chunky up in here with all the details. And for those of you who have been following along, you know that we just did our open house this past weekend. We had 24 people come, which is exciting. It's not as much as 60 people, but that was a different price point in a different kind of investor focused as opposed to residential, really unconventional. And I was hoping that the contract to close checklist that I was going over today would be applicable to the contract that we received over the weekend, but we have not received it yet. It is in the works. Fingers crossed, knock on all of the wood, because that's the thing. People, you can never believe anything. You know, people are like, oh, I'm working on an offer. Oh, I can't wait, blah, blah, blah. I've been telling my clients, I'm like, step 1 is to stay level. We never get our hopes up. We never get discouraged. We are just stay level the whole time, do some yoga.
Yep.
But okay. So if you would like to follow along on YouTube, this would be a great time to switch over there. I am going to share my screen so you guys can see this. And after the entire checklist is done, I will be uploading a version of it to theagentgoldmine.com. It is not uploaded yet because it is still living, breathing, growing. Y'all know that I got back into production semi recently. And so we're still in like the refresh all of my own personal systems from back when I did all of the transactions in 2018 to 2021. And then I took that little hiatus. But okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. Before we dive in real quick, if you have not listened to episode 139, that is a great one to do in between part 5 of the checklist and this one, part 6, because it talks about, Ali and I go through how to choose the best offer. And if you don't have multiple offers, that's totally fine too, because we break down the pros and cons, things to consider, how to communicate offers with your seller. And that whole back and forth piece of the puzzle is already covered on episode 139. So at this point in the process, we are under contract. Yay! Congratulations. Yay. And then this is going to go through the process as if you are not using a transaction coordinator. But if you guys are longtime listeners, you know that Ali and I are really, really big fans of outsourcing the listing coordination and also the transaction coordination. Big fans, definitely do it. But in my rebuild process, I am personally going through every step of the puzzle. I'm not outsourcing it just yet because I want that really tactical, like I want the hands-on. I want to understand the Kentucky market as opposed to North Carolina. And I know that if I outsource it, that I won't know as intimately every detail as I want to this time around. And I emphasize that because this time around, I'm doing it differently than the first time, which was just as quickly as possible, as many as possible. So you have to do some reflection into your own business and your own life and figure out what's important to you. My plan, though, is to bring an in-house admin by the end of the year, like full-time. Like I want a plus talent who is going to run my own systems. That's another reason why I wanted to personally go through it in the beginning to build my specific systems, because that is one of the things when you do outsource to a third-party transaction coordinator or listing coordinator who is running their own business and working with multiple agents, they're going to already have their own process for doing things, their own templates. And so you fall into their systems in a way. Whereas this, I want it to be 100% mine, and then I bring that person in-house to run the play. That being said, you can always communicate with your third-party person and be like, hey, would you mind changing this? Hey, can you do this process for me? So nothing we ever say is black and white. Everything is gray, and it is up to you to think critically about how you want to tweak things for your own business. Ali, anything to add on to that before I jump in?
No, this is perfection. Keep going.
Perfection. Oh my God. Okay, awesome. So we're under contract. Yay. You are going to make sure that you have the fully executed documents in DotLoop if you're using DotLoop or SkySlope or whatever. Within EXP, we have SkySlope, but through my MLS, we have DotLoop, and I like DotLoop. So that is, we use the loops. And then I have a virtual assistant who transfers my files into SkySlope because I never want to go on SkySlope. Not because it's not great, just because it's another system and I don't want to get in it. I don't want to do it. So after that, though, if you have multiple offers, you're going to send out your template email to all of the agents who offered, thanks for your offer. Thanks so much, blah, blah, blah. And template emails for everything, right? Because you want to go back with them and let them know and be gracious and have them love you and be like, wow, that's really professional. I'm so glad, even though I didn't get this, I enjoyed working with Shelby. That was a positive interaction, right? That is the goal. Then you're also right away going to send the fully executed contract to the buyer's agent, attach the contract docs in case you need anything else from them. Because a lot of times, I still need an initial, or I need guidance on whether, if you're in North Carolina, there's due diligence money or earnest money or something like that. And I also include any other FYIs, like FYI, utilities are on, ready for scheduling, or FYI, please let me know the seller needs 24-hour notice, whatever the case may be. Think through it up front and be communicated with the other agent on the other side of the transaction. You're also going to send out your email to the title or attorney. I say that because in North Carolina, it's an attorney. In Kentucky, it's title. But basically, hey, we're under contract. Here are the documents. Here are the key points. That is something too. I like to lay out the key points just because I don't trust anyone to read anything ever. So, yeah. And I am happy to share all my templates, by the way. All my template emails, I will send anyone anytime. So you can ask for them. Go to Instagram, The Shelby Show. I'm happy to send them to you. Also, just say hi to Ali the agent, ALI, on Instagram.
Yes. By the way, for those that are watching on YouTube right now, for her templates, she uses, and I use Superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like
Good
a way
point,
to super easily get the templates, because prior to this, we were using Outlook and Gmail, and you had to save it as a draft, and that
right.
You
And
go
then,
into the draft
copy and paste, and
copy and paste.
It's awful.
It's it may sound like a good idea in the beginning, and it is. It's better, it's the best option for you for Gmail and Outlook, but it saves significantly more time if you are to switch over to Superhuman. So if you're watching this on YouTube, we have a link in the description with a discount for you. So there you go.
Nice. I love that. I totally forgot we had that. So thank you, Ali. And I love Superhuman. I really do. But yeah, and then the last thing that we'll send out right away is that under contract email to the sellers, congratulations, you're under contract. Here's what's next. And it's steps out everything that is to come with earnest money, inspections, negotiations, the appraisal, and then also timelines associated. So that way they have everything laid out in what to expect. But just because you send it to them once doesn't mean that you're going to keep, you're definitely going to keep them posted throughout the way. But there are some people who are oh, I want that. I'm going to print this email and put it on my fridge and then keep it as a timeline for me. So those are the 4 emails out the gate that I run through, and then penned in the MLS, of course, update the referral agent, who this one that Ali, I hope, oh my gosh, we are, I think close, knock on wood, but with someone for this property. And then you're also going to go in and update your CRM and any information. I like to pull out all of this information by me. I mean, my virtual assistant does this, but title company, lender, buyer's agent, access details, all of the quick little snippets that you might need on the fly, I have her go in and put that into a certain section in Follow Up Boss. So anytime I go to that client's profile, I just see all of the key points right there on the side in my face. That's helpful for me. Also, add all of the key dates and timelines to your calendar if you're gonna do it that way. I still like live off my calendar, and I like to see like banners for inspection periods or deadlines or anything applicable. Yeah, and then make sure that you have all your files pulled. You can pull them and upload them into your seller drive, which we've talked about before in the past, how a seller has their drive, and that's where we have contract documents are uploaded, but also like any supporting documents that they uploaded pre going live. So that way we have all of the buyer frequently asked questions ahead of time. That's what I mean by seller drive. Okay, then these are bonus things that you can do, but of course, like go in Instagram, Facebook story. You're so excited. You can also, if you have multiple offers, this is a great time to either do like a ringless voice mail drop, which I think we've talked about before, how pursue at your own risk because technically you're not supposed to call people in mass if they haven't opted in. So proceed at your own risk. But that is one of those things where it's like the voice message is like, hey, like I don't know if you've heard, but your neighbor had multiple offers on their house. And that means that we have buyers who are actually looking to move into this neighborhood. And if you've considered selling, this would be a great time because we actually have people looking right now. Give me a call back or whatever. And I just pulled that out of my butt, but you understand the point, right, Ali? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. And you can do the same thing with mail if you want to do that. And this is a great opportunity also to share the story depending on how quickly you want to share the story. Some people are hesitant to share this early in the process because it's not closed yet, not even inspected yet. But other people do like to share every bit of the story and bring people along for the ride. So up to you. But yeah, and then if you do an under contract writer on the sign, I don't, but this if you do, there you go, do it. Yeah. And then as you proceed, letting your sellers know up front too, like that no news is good news, setting expectations like, hey, like I promise I will be in touch as soon as anything applicable is up. Um, let them know that, but then also it's a great time for you to give them bonus data. This is when I like to, hey, like, I'm so happy that we are under contract and moving forward, but I just want to let you know what was happening behind the scenes so you have a full picture of what we've done to market your property. And I have a template for that as well. But hey, like we strongly believe in marketing. Here's the real-time data. Here are the number of people who saw your ads, the number of prospects we had, phone calls. This is if you haven't already done this. And this is only if you have the data. But what I would say is that I challenge you to keep track of your marketing efforts because having data to show your clients is, I think, what really wows them as well. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, because like the number one complaint from clients, both sellers and buyers, is like, what is my agent doing?
Right.
So show them.
Right.
I paid off one of my mortgages in just 4 months thanks to the shred method. I personally use the shred method to manage my money and crush my mortgage faster than I ever thought possible. The system was simple, the customer service is top notch, and the results speak for themselves. $121,000 of a mortgage balance gone in just 4 months. I put my money where my mouth is, and it worked. If I can do it, so can you. This can not only help you, but your business as well. Help your clients not only buy homes, but also pay their mortgage off faster and build equity sooner. When you add this kind of value to their lives, you're not just their agent, you're their go-to advisor for life. The Shred Method sets you apart and keeps your clients coming back. So go to theshredmethod.com to learn more about how you can shred your mortgage and help your clients do the same.
Yeah. And they can't know unless you tell them. And I think all of us kind of struggle with that. It's like, you don't want to sound braggy or you don't want to like, I don't know, but people do like to know. They want to know that you're working for them. They want to know the results you're getting. So the only way they can know that is if you share it with them. Cool. Then also, so this is your first 3 days. You're going to do the behind the scenes data that we just talked about, update, share wins, and confirm the earnest money has been received. All these little details. The next thing that you're going to want to pay attention to is the inspections, making sure that the they are coordinated with, that the buyer agent is on top of their game. And this is kind of an unfortunate thing of real estate, is that there are some perspectives of like, well, that's their responsibility. They should be on top of it. I don't assume that mindset. I assume the mindset of I want this thing to close and I'm going to do anything that I have to, whether that is double work or not. I'm going to stay on track of literally everyone, do reminders, over communicate, because I want it to close. So do play your business zone however you see fit, but that's what I like for mine. And then with inspections, these are just things for you to know, listing agent, is like, make sure your utilities are on. There are sellers who, if the property's vacant, they won't tell you and they'll just shut off utilities. And then the buyer's inspector will go out there and try to inspect and there's no utilities on. And now that's extra coordination and that's pissed off parties, and they might charge an extra fee to go back out. Like, those are all things that could be avoided if you make sure that you communicate to your sellers to keep the utilities on and keep the property insured. And then same, like, make sure that the keys are there. And it's not just the keys to the house. Are there keys to the crawl space? Is the attic access locked for any reason? Where else do they need to get in that is potentially blocked or inaccessible by the seller? And how can I think about this ahead of time to make sure there are no issues? If there is something that you know is tricky, if the fireplace, you need to switch it this way, having that information and communicating it to the inspector up front can also help. Ali's talked about this before, going to the inspection. I think that she said that on the buyer side. I have not been to the inspection on the listing side, although I don't think it's a bad idea. And I don't think it's a bad idea to meet the appraiser out there either in some yoga pants with some cookies and whatever. Just kidding, kind of.
Yoga pants.
But for sure with the appraiser in particular, if this is a great chance for you to send them the highlight sheet that you've already created in your marketing package that we've talked about on other, because the highlight sheet in theory has all of the list of improvements that your seller has done, itemized and priced with the date. So that way you can be like, hey, in case you didn't know, here are all the updates and things we've done to the property that you might not know of or can't see. That will only help your cause in regard to getting the value that you are hoping to get. Yeah, so these are all on the list. If you are following on YouTube, you're going to have that list of updates and highlights emailed to the appraiser. And anything that you can get ahead of, in theory, you already have. Like, as you're doing the walkthrough, as you're prepping for the market, and you are hitting your seller with a home prep list, you're not just looking for the things that will make the house beautiful, but you're also looking for things that you know will come back on an inspection if you don't get ahead of it. So like, for those, chipping paint is a big one, or if like the flooring is torn, if there's like a safety hazard, or there's steps that are missing handrails. I think it's over 3 steps. You need to have like a handrail. These are all little things that you can identify up front, get ahead of, so that way you won't have issues down the road. Yeah. And then of course, do stories on all of this. Like, even if you're not on the inspection, you can be like an inspection day, whatever. Like, the more you share, it's actually crazy. Right now, I have done one listing back in November, and I have my one listing live that's a referral from Ali. I have people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, you're killing it. Like, how many listings do you have? Like, wow, I feel like your business is just really, really taken off. And it's just so funny to me, because I'm like, granted, we have 2 under contract and, I'm working with people and stuff, but like, I have one listing that's live, like one. And because of the power of social media, it's just, if the more you share these, it goes back to what Ali said in the last episode about building the trust before they even get to the point where they're ready. Because the more you share, the more you have people understand, trust you, like you, and get sold before ever speaking to them. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, cool. Then after the inspections and the appraisal, that is one thing on the listing side. Try your best not to allow a buyer's agent to piecemeal you, especially with inspections. I've had people do this before, where they'll send me the home inspection, then they'll send me the pest inspection, then they'll send me the septic or whatever the case may be, and they ask for things at each step. The answer is like, dude, no, like, consolidate all of your inspections, talk to your client, help them prioritize what is most important to them, and send everything at once. Ideally, even after the appraisal's back. It depends on like whether or not you can do that in the inspection timeline period. But ideally, on the listing side, you will have every inspection complete and the appraisal complete with any required repairs, any negotiations, all information up front, so you can do one shot, one kill. Because if you are giving your seller whiplash, if you're giving yourself whiplash, that is you're doing that to yourself, because you can just tell the buyer's agent, sorry, thank you so much, I have received this, I'll wait until I receive the full amount of requests from your seller, from your buyer, before presenting it to my seller. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can't believe that you've had agents do that. That's
Dude,
wild.
oh my gosh, it is. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why do I have a template email for that situation? I shouldn't have a template email. That it's happened more than once, you know?
Damn.
Yeah. Anyway, so negotiations, and on negotiations, I would say my preferred method is to not do repairs, is to give allowances whenever possible, because what happens is if you do repairs, your seller is going to want to do them as inexpensive as possible. And then if the buyer wants to reinspect and it's not done perfect, like the chances of people being unhappy and skeptical are greatly increased when repairs are involved. Whereas if you are able to give them a concession, then they can choose their own vendors, they can do it to their own standard, they can observe it, and it's not your problem anymore. So I'm a really big fan of concessions as opposed to actually doing repairs. Ali, thoughts on that? Or do you do repairs? What do you do?
If you are looking to change brokerages this year so you can increase your business and you want to join us at eXp Realty and would like either myself, Ali Garced, or Shelby Johnson to personally sponsor you in, so that way you have access to 2 icon agents, text the word JOIN to either my number, 914-318-4918,
or Shelby's number, 859-267-3849.
If I sponsor you and you have access to the both of us and everything that's 5 Pillars Nation, we have the checklist, the systems, the processes to help you scale your business. And don't take our word for it. We've had agents switch brokerages to join us that were stuck making $300,000 GCI, and they join us so they can scale. So text the word JOIN to those numbers and we'll take the next steps. I have, you know what? I have a story. Yeah, it's, I try to avoid repairs. The chances of everything going wrong with repairs is very, very high. For example, this story. If a listing agent does not continue to tell their seller or update the seller net sheet, hey, this is how much the buyer is requesting. We can either fix this at the cost of, let's just say $5K, or we can just credit them $5K at closing. And if the listing agent does not update the seller and let them know our profit has now decreased by $5K, this is how much you're going to be walking away with after, my compensation and closing costs and now the repairs. That part is so important. I sent a referral out to someone, great agent out in Florida. And the way that they do it there is just different. Interesting though, because the buyer agent was paid for a minor fix in the seller's house while under escrow. The buyer agent paid that, not the buyer, the buyer agent. And the listing agent did not update the seller and say, hey, by the way, I guess never sent the seller a seller net sheet. By the way, this is how much you're going to leave with, which is like the most important thing to do. Like the number one question that sellers have is, how much am I going to net?
Totally.
And they didn't do that. So anyway, we were supposed to close last week. And the seller was like, wait, what the hell? I have to pay $10K and XYZ. I'm not closing. And seller is refusing to sign. We are now like 3-4 business days past closing. And the buyer's agent and the listing agent are like, well, what happens now? The buyer's out all their money of inspection, appraisal. And so the buyer agent is now going to put a lien on the seller's house because the buyer's agent was the one who put work into the seller's house.
Wow.
So at least there's that. Like, at least there is a way for the buyer's agent to get some money. So therefore you could pay the buyer, like, hey, here's money back for the stuff that you did in a house that you're not going to get at no fault to you, at no fault to the buyer's agent. It's all because the listing agent didn't say, seller, this is what you're going to be walking away with. Like,
Wow.
what? It's crazy. And I feel so bad. It was supposed to be a smooth, like, referral, poor VA buyer. But shit happens when there's a lack of communication of the listing agent to the seller.
Totally. And I know that there are a lot of agents out there who are scared. They're scared to have like conversations about money. They're scared to have like tell what they perceive to be like bad news. But you have to. It's literally your job. You have to. Or else, I mean, who's going to? You can't. It's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't get better with time. You can't shove it in a closet and hope it goes away. It's like you have to be the person who brings everything up, because over communicate, shed light on every little bit of darkness, and it's the only way.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, chances are the clients know, the clients may already know that they're not going to walk away with a lot. Like, they know that they just refinanced and now their closing costs are going to be more. Like, a lot of times they know. So you're not the bearer of bad news. You're just reminding them. They're like, okay, yeah. So, but of course, if they're unreasonable, don't work with them. Next.
Yeah. This reminds me of The Full Fee Agent, the book that Ali just talked about in her little book review from the last episode, is that they do talk about that in the book, about how to break bad news in a way that helps you. Like they literally talk about scripts for that. So go check out that episode that Ali did on her book review, and then read The Full Fee Agent also. Yeah. Okay. So we have negotiated and not done repairs. We've done concessions. Then at this point, it is, again, following up. Like, your entire job is like following up, which is why it's so good for TC, because following up is so time consuming and it's not bringing in more business. It's not like getting you a paycheck. So outsourcing this, so important. But I say as I'm doing it myself. But you are checking in. You're also thinking through the things of like, is my seller going to be here? Because sometimes they don't think to tell you that they have a vacation to Mexico or whatever. And then it's asking questions like power of attorney, mail away. If there is a situation where it's a separation, they're not divorced yet, or probate, or, a trust, any of these different things, it's the more you can think about and ask questions up front, the more it was likely to go smooth when closing finally does come. Yeah. So schedule closing, make sure that everyone has the payoff that they need. And this is just asking questions too. Like, instead of like just asking like, hey, are you good? Be like, to the attorney or title, it's like, hey, what are you waiting on? What specifically do you need in order to be clear to close or whatever? Because then sometimes you'll find out information. And it's like, oh, dude, why did you not ask me that? I can help with that. Or, yeah. And then just prepping your seller reminders. This is depending on whether they're in the home or whether it's vacant, will depend on what you need to do to prep them ahead of time. But moving out, making sure that it's like broom swept condition at a minimum. You might even want to consider doing a pre-final walkthrough to make sure, trust but verify. And anyway, closing gift, I think, yeah, let's see. Reviewing the closing disclosure, that is something too. Don't trust the attorney or title that they've done it correctly. They are people and they have a million files going on, and it is your responsibility to at least double check and make sure that everything looks in line. I have caught way too many. Hey, it's missing this. Hey, this should be on that side. Hey, my commission's wrong. Like, it's just actually crazy. Real estate is crazy. Everything is fucked. I mean, not bad word. Yeah. What else? Closing. What do I need to do, Ali? I'm done.
Okay. I know that you are like starting to ramp up your business there for day of closing.
Yeah.
Being that you plan on scaling, I'm curious, are you going to be attending closing or having, what does that look like?
Yeah. That's a good question. Right now, I'm very much in the mode of like, absolutely, I want to go. Because I want everything to be like super hyper personal, and I want them to be like so in love with the entire experience and process. But I do know that like, I mean, when I was pumping out a ton of transactions back in the day, like I didn't go to closing, like I
Yeah.
straight up. So I don't know yet. Or do you go to closing?
I can't because
Oh
I'm in
yeah.
Minnesota and I sell in Tucson, Arizona. And that's the thing too, is like, what can I do instead? You know, should I pay one of my agents to go and like physically be there? Sometimes like the actual day of closing, or okay, so there are 2 days. And I think every state does this differently. In Arizona, the buyers sign 3 days before closing. So the day of signing is like typically the day that I used to go when I was there, and I would try to go to as many. I physically couldn't. So but when I would go, it's like kind of awkward, you know, like people are like they're there to sign. Like you're not the highlight, you know, like the highlight is like just get the shit done. So it was like cute to like bring balloons and like a little gift there, but it was I don't know, I found it awkward. I found a better way to hype the client was one at the key delivery. So once it's actually been recorded in Arizona, that's when we can hand over the keys. So I'll meet you at the property after we receive the green light from title. That way it's just us. It's not us and then paperwork and then there's a kid screaming and like the next buyers are in line ready to sign with title. And it was just like it didn't feel as nice. So therefore we come with like a little basket, you know, Karina Albalice really like loves like the entry basket, like of shit that you need. Stuff, sorry, Shelby's mom, stuff that you need. Like like original stuff that you just don't think about that you actually need to start moving in. So I feel like that is a better time. Plus, that's when you're alone with them at the property. You can get a little bit of like a video there. Like, hey, how was it working with me? Exactly. With the house. And that's when they feel better instead of going to a title company. It's cold. The environment is just like, it's not it, you know? But so yeah, I don't know if I'm going to like start paying right now, like maybe agents to meet them at the property. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's still a work in progress. Like my other one that I closed here, it was an investor and I would have gone to closing, but circumstance changed and they didn't even the attorney went to their house. Um
Whoa.
yeah, so I didn't, well, it wasn't the attorney, it was the paralegal, but still they went out there. I haven't figured out that out yet because in North Carolina, it was the same as Tucson, where they don't get the keys until it's recorded. So it's not at the closing table anyway. In Kentucky, they do. They literally sit there, they sign, and they get the keys. And
Oh,
so, and apparently it's normal for the buyer and the seller to be at the same closing table and sign together. And that blows my mind.
yes, that and Tennessee is the same way. It is, and I've attended one. My sister-in-law sold her property, and we were sitting across the table from the buyer. We're
So
like,
weird.
"What?"
So weird. Yeah.
So that almost is like more leverage, I think, as both buyer and agent parties. I could be like, hey, by the way, we don't want this to be like a crazy. I hope that you don't
Yeah.
get beat up at the closing table. I'll bring my mitt just in case, but you are going to have to meet this person in person
Yeah.
at the closing table and like maybe shake their hand. So it like I don't know. I would use that as like a way because
To
in
not go.
Tucson, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean I would use that as a way to just be like, hey, just remember that they are a person. You are going to be meeting them at the end of this transaction. So let's
Oh,
be like a
true.
little bit more civil as opposed to Tucson where it's like you're never going to meet this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So F them over. You are listening to The Agent Goldmine with your hosts, Shelby Johnson and me, Ali Garced, or Ali the Agent. Hit us up, The Shelby Show on the gram, Ali the Agent, or for all of the free resources, we have it all on theagentgoldmine.com. Be a bro and share this show.